Jai Hind everyone. So dear students, you know that now from 10th of August your unit test 2 is going to start. So dear students, this period is revision period of economics. And I have already informed to you people that two chapters will come. The story of village Palampur, whole chapter, and people as resource till page number 19. So in this period, revision of these two chapters will be done. So please be with me and be very careful. Listen each and everything carefully. So let's start revision of economics. First of all, the chapter 1, story of village Palampur. This chapter is already revised. So today only short revision of this chapter. First of all, in this chapter, a story of a village is introduced. And the purpose of the story is to introduce some basic concepts relating to production. So dear students, farming is the main activity in Palampur. And we can say farming is the most economic activity in India. After that, about Palampur, this is well connected with neighboring villages and towns. Raiganj, a big village 3 km from Palampur. An all-weather road connects the village to Raiganj and further on to nearest small town of Shahpur. Many kinds of transports are visible. This village has about 450 families belonging to several castes. 80 upper caste families. Their houses are big, quite large, and are made of brick and cement plastering. The SCs, scheduled castes, also known as Dalits, they comprise 1/3 of the population and live in one corner of the village and in much smaller houses which are of mud and straw. Most of the houses have electricity connection in Palampur, dear students. Electricity powers all the tube wells in the field and is used in various types of small business. Palampur has 2 primary schools and 1 high school. There is a primary health center run by government and 1 private dispensary where the sick are treated. So the description above shows that Palampur has fairly well developed system of roads, transport, electricity, irrigation, schools and health center. So we can say Palampur is a developed village. Now the story of Palampur, an imaginary village, will take us through the different types of production activities. Different types of production activities in the villages. In villages across India, farming is the main production activity, main economic activity. There are other production activities also like non-farm activities, small manufacturing, transport, shopkeeping, etc. So there are farming activities and non-farming activities. So farming activities, that is agriculture and related to that, and non-farming activities like small scale industries, manufacturing, transport, shopkeeping, etc. Now dear students, next segment is organization of production. You know what is the main aim of production? So the main aim of production is to produce the goods and services that we want. So there are 4 requirements for production of goods and services. we can say requirements, we can say factors also. So there are 4 factors for production of goods and services. The first requirement is land and other natural resources like water, forest, minerals, etc. The second requirement is labor, that is people who will do the work. Some production activities require highly educated workers to perform the necessary task, while other activities require workers who can do manual work. Each worker is providing the labor necessary for production. So this was the second requirement, or you can say this was the second factor. Then physical factor, dear students. The third requirement is physical capital, that is the variety of inputs required at every stage during production. Many inputs are required, and these are known as physical capital. Physical capital is of 2 types. One is fixed capital. Dear students, there are many things during production which can be used for many years. So which can be used for many years during production, they are known as fixed capital. For example, tools, machines, buildings, generators, turbines, computers, etc. So tools, machines, buildings can be used in production for over many years. That's why they are fixed capital. Then another one is working capital. Dear students, there are inputs which are already used during production. That is working capital. For example, raw materials. For example, money in hand. So this was third requirement. Then the fourth is human capital. Your next chapter is same. So human capital. So these are the 4 requirements. For using these 3, land, labor and fixed capital, there is need of knowledge and enterprise to put together land, labor and physical capital and produce an output either to yourself or to sell in the market. And this these days is called human capital. Now, farming in Palampur. As you know that farming is the main production activity in Palampur. 75% of the people who are working are dependent on farming for their livelihood. They could be farmers, they could be farm laborers. So the well-being of these people is closely linked to production on the farms. But dear students, there is a problem. Look, we cannot increase land area. Even in Palampur also, since 1960, there has been no expansion in land area. So dear students, if we cannot increase land area, so we have to be very, very careful while using land. So if we will not be careful while using land, then its fertility will be less, will lose. Then the second is there a way one can grow more from the same land? Look dear student, in kind of crops grown and facilities available, Palampur would resemble a village of the western part of the state of Uttar Pradesh. All land is cultivated in Palampur, no land is left idle. During the rainy season, Kharif, farmers grow jowar and bajra. These plants are used as cattle feed. It is followed by cultivated of potato between October and December, that is Zaid season. In the winter season, which is Rabi season, Rabi crop, fields are sown with wheat. So from the wheat produce, farmers keep enough wheat for the family's consumption and sell the surplus in the market. A part of the land area is also devoted to sugarcane, which is harvested once every year. Means sugarcane is the crop for whole 1 year. Sugarcane in its raw form or as jaggery is sold to traders in Shahpur. Now the question is why farmers are able to grow three different crops in a year. So dear students, due to well developed system of irrigation, electricity came early to Palampur. Its major impact was to transform the system of irrigation in that village. Then students, the most common way of increasing production on a given piece of land is multiple cropping. To grow more than one crop on a piece of land during the year is known as multiple cropping. And it is the most common way of increasing production on given piece of land. So all farmers in Palampur grow at least two main crops. Many are growing potato as third crop in the past 15 to 20 years in Palampur. Then you have seen that one way of increasing production from the same land is multiple cropping. There is other way also, and that is to use modern farming methods. So dear students, for higher yield, they use modern farming method. What is yield? So yield is measured as crop produced on a given piece of land during a single season. So now the question is, what is modern farming methods? So dear students, the Green Revolution in the late 1960s introduced the Indian farmer to cultivation of wheat and rice using HYV, high yielding varieties of seeds. Compared to traditional seeds, the HYV seeds promise to produce much greater amounts of grain on a single plant. As a result, the same piece of land would now produce far larger quantities of food grains than was possible earlier. So HYV seeds, however, needed plenty of water and also chemical fertilizers and pesticides. So dear students, higher yields were possible only from a combination of HYV seeds, irrigation, chemical fertilizers, pesticides, etc. And you know, farmers of Punjab, Haryana and Western Uttar Pradesh were the first to try out modern farming method in India. Farmers of Punjab, Haryana and Western Uttar Pradesh, they were the first farmers who used modern farming method. It's too hot. Okay. So in Palampur, the yield of wheat grown from the traditional varieties was 1300 kg per hectare, but when they started using HYV seeds, the yield went up to 3200 kg. From traditional seeds 1300 kg and from HYV seeds 3200 kg. Just 2.5 times more. After that, the next segment is, will the land sustain? Dear students, land being a natural resource, it is necessary to careful in its use. Scientific reports indicate that the modern farming methods have overused the natural resources. In many areas, green revolution is associated with the loss of soil fertility due to increased use of chemical fertilizers. Also, continuous use of groundwater for tube well irrigation. You know that HYV seeds need plenty of water. So, continuous use of groundwater for tube well irrigation has led to the depletion of the water table. So everyone has to be very careful. Then the next is, how is land distributed between the farmers of Palampur? So dear students, how important land is for farming. Unfortunately, not all the people engaged in agriculture have sufficient land for cultivation. In Palampur, about 1/3 of the 450 families are landless. Almost 150 families, they are landless. They have no land for cultivation. Of the remaining families who own land, 240 families cultivate small plots of land less than 2 hectares. Cultivation of such plots doesn't bring adequate income to farmer family. After that, you can see large number of small plots scattered around the village in the picture. You can see this picture in your book. These are cultivated by the small farmers. On the other hand, more than half of the area of the village is covered by plots that are quite large in size. So in Palampur, there are 60 families of medium and large farmers who cultivate more than 2 hectares of land. A few of the large farmers have land extending over 10 hectares or more. So three types of farmer: small or marginal farmer, medium farmer, and large farmer. After that, who will provide the labor? The next segment is, after land, labor is the next necessary factor for production. You know, farming requires a great deal of hard work. Small farmers, along with their families, they cultivate their own fields. So they provide the labor required for farming themselves, while medium and large farmers hire farm laborers to work on their fields. After that, the capital needed in farming. Dear students, most small farmers have to borrow money, have to take loan to arrange for the capital. They borrow from village money lenders or the traders who supply various inputs for cultivation. And you know, the rate of interest on such loans is very high. They are put to great distress to repay the loan. What about, this was about small farmer, but what about medium and large farmers? How they arrange capital needed in farming. So in contrast to small farmers, the medium and large farmers have their own savings from farming. They are thus able to arrange for the capital needed. Understand? So they use their own savings. After that, now dear students, last segment of farming is sale of surplus farm products. Look dear students, what is produced by small farmers, that is, you can say, enough or less than their consumption. But the medium and large farmers who produce grains in large amount, they sell their production, their grains, they sell their surplus farm products in market and gain profit. So they do with their products, farm products, they sell in the market. I am talking about large and medium farmers, because the small farmers, they don't have such production that they can sell it in the market. So this was about farming activity. Now non-farm activities in Palampur. So the first one is dairy. Very common activity in Palampur. So dairy is a common activity in many families of Palampur. People feed their buffaloes on various kinds of grass and jowar and bajra. The milk is sold in Raiganj, the nearby large village. Two traders from Shahpur towns have set up collection cum chilling centers at Raiganj, from where the milk is transported to far away towns and cities. Then the second one is small scale manufacturing in Palampur. So at present less than 50 people are engaged in manufacturing in Palampur. Unlike the manufacturing that takes place in big factories in the towns and cities, manufacturing in Palampur involves very simple production methods. They are done on a small scale. They are carried out mostly at home or in the fields with the help of family labor. Rarely are laborers hired. After that, the shopkeepers of Palampur, people involved in trade, exchange of goods, are not many in Palampur. The traders of Palampur are shopkeepers who buy various goods from wholesale markets in the cities and sell them in the village. A few of the families whose houses are close to the bus stand, they have used a part of the house, part of the space to open small shops and they sell eatables. Then transport. There are variety of vehicles on the road connecting Palampur to Raiganj. Rickshawalas, tongawalas, jeep, tractor, truck drivers and people driving the traditional block cart and bogies are in traditional way. They ferry people from one place to another place. They are involved in transport services and in return they are paid off. They are paid for it. The number of people involved in transport has grown over last years. So dear students, it was all about first chapter, the story of village Palampur. Now come to second chapter, people as resource. So let's start the second chapter. So dear students, people as resource. This chapter, people as resource, is an effort to explain population as an asset for the economy rather than a liability. You know, population becomes human capital when there is investment made in the form of education, training and medical care. In fact, human capital is the stock of skill and productive knowledge embodied in them. People as resource is a way of referring to a country's working people in terms of their existing productive skills and abilities. So, dear students, what I am trying to say is that a population can be asset rather than liabilities when investment is made in them in terms of education, medical care and training, skill formation. So, like other natural resources, or you can say resources, population also is a resource, a human resource. And this is the positive side of a large population that is often overlooked when we look only at the negative side, considering only the problems of providing the population with food, education and access to health facilities. So large population is not a problem. It can be an asset for the country. And take example of China. China, which is the most populous country of the world, then also that country is developed. But there is need of investment in them in terms of education, healthcare and training. Investment in human capital like education, training and medical care yields a return just like investment in physical capital. Why we invest in physical capital? To get profit in future. So at the same way, we invest in human capital also. This can be seen directly in the form of higher incomes earned because of higher productivity of the more educated or better trained persons. If person is educated and if person is trained, then his productivity will be more. And if his productivity will be more, then he will earn more and more. Understand? So we can say that a trained person and educated persons, they earn more, they can earn more, their productivity is high. So not only do the more educated and the healthier people gain through higher incomes, society also gains in other indirect ways, because the advantage of a more educated or a healthier population spreads to those also who themselves were not directly educated or given health care. It means, dear students, like suppose if any person is healthy and educated, then he will be beneficial not only for his family but for society also, for his city, for his state, and for his country also. In fact, human capital is in one way superior to other resources like land and physical capital. Human resource can make use of land and capital. Land capital cannot become useful on its own. It is the human capital which can use land and other capital in proper way. So for many decades in India, large population has been considered a liability rather than asset. I am talking about India for many decades. But a large population need to be burdened for an economy. It need not to be burdened on economy. It can be turned into productive asset. How? By investing in human capital. For example, by spending resources on education and healthcare for all, training of industrial and agricultural workers in the use of modern technology, useful scientific researches, and so on. And dear students, two stories were introduced to you, story of Sakal and story of Vilas. How investment in Sakal in terms of education and healthcare become more beneficial for the family of Sakal. But at the same time, Vilas, who was unable to get education, his condition became meager. Or we can say, in the two case studies we saw, Sakal went to school and Vilas did not go. Sakal was physically strong and healthy. There was no need for him to visit the doctor. Frequently, Vilas was a patient of arthritis. He lacked the means to visit the doctor. Sakal acquired a degree in computer programming. Sakal found a job in a private firm, while Vilas continued with the same work as his mother. He earned a meager income like his mother to support a family. So in the case of Sakal, several years of education added to the quality of labor. This enhanced his total productivity. Total productivity adds to the growth of the economy. And this in turn pays an individual through salary or in some other form of his choice. In case of Vilas, there could not be any education or health care in the early part of his life. He spends his life selling fish like his mother. Henceforth, he draws the same salary of unskilled laborer as his mother. and condition of villas became worsened in future. So investment in human resources via education and medical care can give high rates of return in future. This investment on people is the same as investment in land and capital. Even take an example of a child. A child too, with investments made on her education and health, can yield a high return in future in the form of higher earnings and greater contribution to the society. Understand why your parents are sending you people to such a good school, why they are very caring about your health care, about your health, because they know that what investment they are doing today, it will give higher return in future. Among you, someone will be doctor, engineer, teacher, scientist. So that is good return in future. That's why parents invest in their children, in their child. So we can say, like what I said, a child too with investments made on her education and health can yield a high return in future in the form of higher earnings and greater contribution to the society. And you know, if parents are educated parents are found to invest more heavily on the education of their child. If parents are educated, definitely they will spend more on their child's education. This is because they have realized the importance of education for themselves. They are also conscious of proper nutrition and hygiene. They are very careful about health. They accordingly look after their children's need for education at school and good health. So a virtuous cycle is created in this case. If parents are educated, they will educate their children. Then when children will parents, they will invest in their children. So a virtuous cycle is created. In contrast, a vicious cycle may be created by disadvantaged parents who themselves uneducated and lacking in hygiene keep their children in a similarly disadvantaged state. If parents are not educated, if parents are not healthy, there is chance that they will keep their children in a similar, you can say, disadvantaged state. I am giving you example of one country, Japan. So Japan has invested in human resource a lot. You know, they did not have any natural resource. This country is developed country. They import the natural resources needed in their country from other countries. So the question is, how this country becomes a rich or developed country? So this country invested on people, especially in the field of education and health. These people have made efficient use of other resources like land and capital because they all are educated, they all are skilled. So they use, you can say, efficiently they use their resources like land and capital. They have invested on people, especially in the field of education and health, and then the people made efficient use of other resources because they are educated, they are healthy. So efficiency and the technology evolved, you can say, by people have made these countries rich and developed. So dear students, now you can understand the importance of education, medical care and skill, or you can say training. So that's why even government of many country, or you can say all country, they try to invest in their population in terms of education, in terms of healthcare and in terms of training. Even your government, Indian government, is spending a lots of money on the education of people, on the health care of people, on the training of people, so that its population should be asset rather than liabilities. So that's all for today's revision class. So dear students, chapters like the story of village Palampur, whole chapter, entire chapter, and people as a resource till page number 19. Before economic activities by men and women, that topic will not come on that page. That you have to revise. So please read all the topics carefully. Please read the notes which I have provided carefully. So that's all for today. Thank you and have a nice day.